Good morning, everyone. Uh, Lily and I are PMs in the Windows team and look after VPN and remote access. We're going to be here talking to you about modernizing your remote access. Now, we've been doing a lot of work on the VPN side over the last couple of years, adding a lot of functionality on the VPN client. And what we will be doing is taking you through what is VPN in Windows 10, what are the major scenarios that we support. One of the things that we've gotten a lot of feedback on is that there are a lot of knobs that need to be turned for VPN, and it can get a little daunting to understand what works together well and what doesn't. So we are actually going to present 4 or 5 scenarios which work really well and which are the ones we're recommending people to put together. And we will also talk about some of the new features coming in the fall creators update. So this is going to be a very demo heavy session, and we'll probably finish earlier in time to give you guys a lot of time for questions. But your key takeaways from this session will be what are the available options for remote access, what are the real world configuration scenarios, and these have been collected by talking to customers, talking to a lot of going through a lot of scenarios with customers and also testing those scenarios very heavily. And then, of course, you will learn a little bit more about some of the new features coming on Windows 10 Fall Creators Update for VPN. Before we go deeper into this, I did want to spend some time talking about what are the options for VPN on Windows 10. Now, a lot of you will be familiar with Cisco AnyConnect or any of the existing Win32-based VPN options. I call that classic Win32 over here. These are extremely feature-packed VPN client solutions paired with the right VPN servers and have been very popular for a large number of years. They do have a problem, though, that they don't actually intersect with the OS and show up as VPN connections on the OS a lot of times, which means when we add new features on Windows, things like Windows Defender Application Guard or Windows Information Protection, they can't really intersect very well with them. Additionally, what goes on is that when you upgrade your PC, sometimes these break because they are based on NDIS kernel drivers. NDIS kernel drivers give you a lot of power, but also expose you in a lot of ways as well. So looking at that, we decided that there's a better third-party option needed in the ecosystem. So with Windows 10, we created something called the Windows VPN platform. With the Windows VPN platform, there are 2 types of solutions. One is the inbox solution. This is the same VPN client that has been in Windows, at least from a protocol perspective, since a long, long time. We have the standards-based protocols like L2TP, PPTP, and IQE2. And also Microsoft SSTP. All the features we talk about today are available with this inbox solution. This is also, in fact, the same VPN drivers and VPN solution that's used for some of our data center drivers as well, things like site-to-site VPN. Then, while this was always available, what we've done here is modernize this more by adding additional functionality. But we also created this universal Windows platform-based VPN plugins. So we created this API set, windows.networking.vpn, and spoke to some of the largest VPN providers out there and worked with them to give them the ability to create a VPN solution that can then be run via downloaded via the Windows Store, lives within the app container, and can communicate all the needs to the platform to actually help drive the VPN. The way it works is that the store application essentially will tell us what are the various what is the configuration, what is the encryption type, what is the authentication. It will drive all of that flow, and once the socket is established, it tells the OS, okay, these are the 2 or 3 sockets that I want you to monitor and give them to me as the data comes on those sockets. This is advantageous because now it appears as a VPN connection to the OS that the OS can monitor. It also can leverage all of the functionality, new functionality that we talk about. Additionally, because it is based on the UWP platform, it takes all the advantages of UWP, including that it is available for all SKU types like desktop, phone, HoloLens, etc. Before we move on, one more thing I'll address is a little bit about direct access. I know there is a lot of questions that people have on direct access. We aren't addressing direct access directly in this presentation, but I'm happy to take questions later. The high-level view to think about it is that both direct access and VPN provides, at a high level, a similar scenario, which is remote access. Direct access has traditionally had some strengths, like very good user convenience. VPN has had other strengths like flexibility and having both v4 and v6. What we have been at least trying to do is get both of these things into one solution at least, so that you have a solution, and at the same time thinking about how to take it into one concrete solution. So from that perspective, we've been adding a lot of the functionality we talk about into VPN, and we're going from there. We want customers to be comfortable with VPN being the solution that can meet all their needs before making any further announcements. So with this, we'll go into some of the features with Windows 10, and I'll hand over to Lily to take this forward, and I'll keep cutting in for demos.
Thanks, Aman. So as he mentioned, I'm going to talk about some of our remote access scenarios and how they'll work with VPN. But first, I'm actually going to talk a little bit about myself. So I hate assembling furniture. I know I'm an engineer. A lot of engineers should like building things, just not furniture. That's not the thing I like. But as someone who moved to Seattle a few years ago with nothing, moving out of college, it was a necessary evil. So I went to IKEA and I picked out everything that my apartment needed. I got a bed, I got some dressers, nightstands, whatever. And as many of you are probably familiar, IKEA, the furniture comes with parts, tools, and an instruction set in a box, and that's it. And you have to put it together yourself. So VPN is a lot like that IKEA bed. We give you a lot of tools in the form of configuration options, and we give you the parts to kind of put them together in a full configuration. But we need to give you that instruction set. You know, how do you use those tools? How do you make the remote access solution that your enterprise needs? Because everybody has different goals. So let's talk about your VPN toolkit. So what is inside of your VPN toolkit today? There are 4 various tool sets. So we'll start with deployment. How do you get that VPN configuration onto all of your users' devices? We support 2 options today, mobile device management, or MDM. And you can deploy via either Microsoft Intune or any other MDM provider. We also support deploying via System Center Configuration Manager, or SCCM. SCCM is typically used to deploy apps or policies to domain-joined devices. The second tool set is on demand. So traditionally, if you think about VPN in the old days, your users would have to go to their settings page, navigate to VPN, find the VPN connection they need, and manually click connect when they've identified that they need to be accessing a corporate resource. So that's another thing they need to know. They need to know whether it's a corporate resource or it's not. And a lot of the times they would also have to, in addition, download a separate app. So it was a lot of hassle. But now in Windows 10, we've added a number of convenience features so that the admin, the enterprise, actually decides for the user when they need to be connected and how they're connected. So that on the user side, you don't have to think about it anymore. Third, authentication. So how will the device authenticate to the VPN server to be able to actually establish that connection? And we support a number of options today, including certificate, smart card, and Windows Hello for business authentication. And we'll talk about a little bit more about that later. And fourth, security. How do you set up an architecture in which you are securing the right resources? So a few of the options in order to do so is, 1, traffic filtering, being able to control what traffic is going over the VPN tunnel and what's not. Another option is using a lockdown profile, where you're actually forcing all of your users' traffic to go over VPN. And in addition to that, forcing them to never be able to actually remove the VPN tunnel or disconnect it. So that's one of our most aggressive options today. And third, being able to integrate with others' Windows security features such as Windows information protection. So let's actually start going through some of the most common scenarios that we've been seeing our customers deploying today and how you can configure those. So in the first scenario, our customers are looking for a simple configuration, something that leads to a faster initial deployment time, and also something that's easier to maintain once it is deployed. So that option would be an always connected configuration. With an always connected configuration, you're going to get that client-less experience that I was mentioning earlier. Your user will never even have to know that a VPN exists. They'll never have to find it. They'll never have to know what is a corporate resource and what is not, because you're protecting their traffic already, because that VPN tunnel is always established and always connected whenever the user is logged in. And because it is always established, it's easy to use, because there really is nothing from the user side. Ooh, sorry. And it is also very similar to the direct access experience. So if you're looking for something that will either replace what you have today with direct access, or you're interested in direct access, this is a pretty good option. And third, because your VPN tunnel is always established, you don't necessarily want all of your traffic to be going through VPN, right? So you want to split the traffic so that corporate resources, all that traffic is going over the VPN tunnel, but any other personal traffic will go over the physical interface. All right, so let's see what the configuration looks like. So you'll have an always-on configuration in order to get that always connected scenario that we just discussed. And with this, the users are always connected to Corp wherever they are. It's also a Boolean feature, so it's either on or it's off. There's no additional configuration needed there. Also, with split tunnel, as I mentioned before, you're going to be splitting your traffic. So your users trying to access payroll or network shares will go over that VPN tunnel at the top. And any personal traffic, such as browsing Netflix or watching random cat videos, is going to go over the physical interface to the internet. So now I'm going to hand it over to Owen, who's going to walk through a demo for you.
Okay. So what we have here, this is a slightly hard thing to show. So what we did is we set up some VMs on Azure, and we actually Azure Active Directory joined them and got the configuration down from what Microsoft IT is currently deploying. So now what you will see on this particular machine, that we have a VPN that is already connected. It is always on. I'll show you how I am saying it's always on in a second. But what you need to understand is this actual VPN connection is actually based on not the inbox VPN. This is actually based on a Palo Alto application, right? The experience with this is as clientless as possible. It's completely integrated within the VPN and Windows UI. And if I go and try to access a particular resource, and I'm going to use HR Web, which is our sort of HR portal, to be able to access some of these things. Sorry, let me just. I haven't tried it on this network first, so I just need to make sure that. The demo gods are not happy right now. Okay, let me get back to this one, but let me show you something else in between that. That is one of the connections. We also have another connection. Now I'm on my host machine. If you see my host machine, it is also connected to another VPN. This is MSIT Auto VPN. Auto VPN is something that you guys have heard of. Some of you have heard about in the past and asked us more about that as well. That is nothing but this configuration that Lily spoke about. And this is an inbox VPN connection, and if I basically press disconnect over here, it should immediately go and start connecting again, because again, this is always on. It will try to keep the connection enabled. As you see, it just went and connected itself. And over here, hopefully, if I try to go to and that's my Azure portal. But if I try to go to the HR web portal, it will load. Okay, so this is loading. This is welcome to Lily Wang. I'll take a look at while Lily's talking after this on why it didn't work with the other one, and we'll come back to that one. But before we go on, one more thing I wanted to show was what does the configuration look like. Lily spoke about the configuration and it being simple. The configuration from the OS point of view comes down in the form of an XML. The MDM and the SCCM solutions can, of course, have a UI on top and then send this down. If you look at this XML, the way it's structured, it is a Boolean property to set on always on. You can basically say always on true. And that is what makes the connection be able to automatically connect. You will, apart from that, give additional properties as well. Like if you want to, if you're doing split tunneling, you need to specify the routes that you need the system to add when the VPN connects. These are things that will only get added when the VPN is connected and then will be removed when they're disconnected. And then we also have things like the DNS suffix in here. The DNS suffix is what the suffix will be for the actual interface after it is connected. And then, of course, you have how you actually want to connect as well. So we have a number of properties here for the inbox VPN that are shown over here. That includes authentication, the routing policy being split tunnel, and then you have a bunch of VPN servers, and the user can select which one they want to use. So this is the configuration for that, and I'm going to switch back to Lily for taking it to the next scenario.
So our second scenario, let's move away from that always connected paradigm and move towards something we call on demand. So that's only connecting the VPN if a corporate resource is needed. So with this, you'll need to be able to define what a corporate resource is, and you need to be define it in a set. So if you can do that with a set of corporate namespaces, then on-demand would be a good option for you. It also improves connection management because you're reducing the number of concurrent connections going to your server because it's not always connected anymore. So not every single one of your users is connected to VPN. So let's look at the actual configuration. So in order to get that on-demand behavior with the corporate namespaces, you will use a destination name-based trigger. So it only connects when a configured domain is queried, and that domain can be defined via a fully qualified domain name, suffix, or a short name. So for example, if you configured .contoso.com as your suffix in the name-based trigger list, and your user goes to payroll.contoso.com, the VPN tunnel will get established. We also continue to recommend using split tunnel in order to separate the two types of traffic, both corporate traffic and private. So let's see a demo of this one.
At the risk of it failing again, I am going to persist and try the first one again. So we are going to try this one more time. It works whenever I see it. Okay, it did work this time. I think the problem was just with the connectivity being intermittent over here, but it did connect from that perspective. Now we will switch to the domain name-based triggering. What we've configured here is we've configured certain suffixes and names on our corporate network. As soon as there's any query that matches that particular name, it automatically triggers the VPN. The best way to show this, and I'm going to go off script a little bit to try to show this to you guys, is if I go to the VPN settings page. Now, there are a bunch of VPN connections here, which is fine. What we need over here is this one, which is the ignite_demo. You see the checkbox underneath that says that it is set up to connect automatically. What I'm going to actually first do is launch PowerShell. Now, and I'm going to use the commandlet testnet connection to actually see if we can connect to HR web. And now testnet connection isn't optimized to actually wait for the connection to complete, but you will see as soon as I do that, the connection will start establishing and will finish as soon as it's completed. So let's go and type this. As you see, as soon as it saw the HR web word, it started like connecting and actually got connected. If I were to run this again, this should be able to actually get the TCP response and actually succeed. Let's just let it come back with a response. Okay, here did you see TCP test succeeded, and it is true. Just to make sure, we will try going to HR web again from Edge. And it does load. So this basically shows you name-based triggering. This, again, the configuration for this, I'm not showing here, but this is something that we've documented heavily. And if you have questions about how to configure this, we are happy to talk to you after this as well. Back to Lily.
All right, so let's take a look at our third scenario. In our third scenario, we're once again going to look at another on-demand scenario. So again, only connecting when a corporate resource is needed. Except now, if you can define your corporate resources as a set of line of business applications that are either Windows Store-based UWP apps or Win32 apps, that's another paradigm in order to use this on-demand feature that we have. And with this, you also continue to get that good connection management because you're reducing the number of concurrent connections that are connecting to your server. But lastly, another thing that you can do with apps is you can restrict the VPN. What do I mean by that? Only configured applications can send traffic to the VPN. So you would do something like that to be able to restrict the type of, restrict the traffic that is entering your corporate network. So that adds to the security aspect. So let's look at the configuration. You would use an app trigger in order to connect the VPN. So if a configured app is launched, the VPN tunnel is established. So in this example, Edge is in our app trigger list. And we continue to use a split tunnel routing policy. So Netflix, Facebook, whatever traffic can go over the physical interface. But I've also configured traffic filters. Traffic filters is what enables you to get that restricted VPN, so that non-configured apps can't access it. So let's see what that looks like. If I have app 1, which is not in our traffic filtering list, you can still send traffic over the physical interface, that's great, but you can't access the VPN tunnel anymore. All right.
Okay, to do this, the way we've set this up is, again, Edge is set up as the app trigger, which means that as soon as I launch Edge, the VPN should start to connect. Also, as Lily mentioned, Edge has the traffic filter on it, which means that only Edge will be allowed to access the VPN. In the previous scenario that you saw, we actually did not have any filtering, which meant it was actually a device-wide VPN, and everybody could, all apps and all settings could actually use that. So in a similar setup as the previous one, I have a VPN connection here. I'm going to launch this and put it on the side. As soon as I launch Edge, what you should see is that the VPN starts to connect and actually moves to connected. What should happen now is that I'm able to actually go to HR web here as well. And there it does load. I'm also able to go to things like Bing.com. And this Bing.com access is actually going over the physical interface and not the VPN interface, since it's split tunneled. The other thing to see over here is, what if we try something that is not in the traffic filter list? So we're going to try two things for that. Let's try Internet Explorer, for example. If I try to go to the same website, it first does a Bing search because it actually got denied right out of the VPN. But if I actually force it to go there, it's going to actually fail because it's not allowed to go through. In fact, this also blocks system apps from going through. So even if I try to run a ping, that will also give a general failure because it's being blocked from actually going through. You can, of course, add additional applications in there. So you can add IE and system to actually get these things to go through. We've just configured it to show you the differences. With that, I will give it back to Lily.
Awesome. All right, let's take a look at one more scenario. So this one is going to be very similar to scenario 3 over here. It is once again on demand, only connects when the set of line of business applications that you've configured is launched. But in this case, you want to restrict the traffic that is actually going through the application you've configured. So you want to be able to say, like, no, I don't want that traffic to go over that physical interface anymore. Everything has to go over the VPN tunnel. So let's show you that. So once again, we have got app trigger. It's going to establish when a configured application, in this case Edge, is launched. Here you'll see no more traffic is going through that physical interface because it is blocked in this configuration with the traffic filtering that you've configured. And you still get that additional also non-configured apps still can't access the VPN. So it can still send traffic over the physical interface because that app is not configured in the traffic filtering list, but it cannot access the VPN tunnel. All right, let's take a look at what that looks like in practice.
Okay, back on the demo. With this demo, what we will show again is that I launch Edge, the VPN connects automatically, but the difference is Edge will be able to reach HR web, but will not be able to reach any internet resource. This is an important scenario where a lot of enterprises want this line of business apps or certain apps to be able to talk back internally, but not externally. Now you can always, of course, make sure that even the internet traffic goes through the VPN tunnel. We just did it this way because it's easier to demonstrate that it's actually getting blocked. So I shall again launch the settings UI. And I don't need to launch the settings UI. I'm just doing that because that makes it easy to see as I launch this. So as I launch Edge and put this on the side, we see VPN starts to connect. And it is connected. Now what we will see is if I try to go to whack HR web again, it is able to go, but if I go to bing.com, it's actually doing it in the background. I'm going to do it in a new window as well so that you can see it spinning.
We want to watch it slowly.
Right, so as you can see, it did not allow this to go through. Now if I launch an application that's not in the traffic filter, just to show the opposite case, if I go to Internet Explorer again, Internet Explorer is of course able to launch MSN and go to bing.com, but as we saw earlier, it will be unable to go to the corporate resources. So back to Lily to take this further.
Cool. So you'll have noticed that there were some of the tool sets that I didn't cover in those scenarios. And let's actually walk through some of them right now because they're actually common across all of them. So the first one is authentication. What are some good authentication options? So in particular for one of the auto-triggered scenarios, so either on demand or always connected, you're going to want to use an authentication method that doesn't require any additional user input, especially if you're going for that full clientless experience. So one good option for that is using certificate-based authentication. And we'll talk about this a little bit later, but we do have a new feature where you can marry multi-factor auth with certificate-based authentication. The second is Windows Hello for Business. So if a user logs into their device using the Windows Hello for Business credentials, VPN will actually be able to use that to automatically authenticate with a VPN server. So that completely seamless. The second thing is deployment. So I'm going to actually briefly mention this, but again, we support deployment via MDM or via SCCM. And with both of those, they offer options in the UI to be able to configure these various VPN profiles. Third is trusted network detection. Because we're looking at a lot of auto-triggered connections, You don't want it to auto-trigger when your user is already in the corporate network. What's the point? VPN is for your remote users. So you want it to you want to prevent the auto-triggering when a trusted network is detected. So how do they do that? So the value of this configuration is actually a DNS suffix. And we'll look for a match of that DNS suffix. But in addition to that, we'll also check to see if the underlying physical network is a domain network or if it is a private network that has been provisioned by MDM. Fourth, we get this question a lot. You talked a lot about client, but how do I configure this on my server? What servers can I use? And from our perspective, everything is configured on the client side. There's nothing additional you need to do on the server side. However, you should keep in mind that the protocol that's supported on the server has to match the protocol supported on the client so that they are able to talk to each other and create that connection. Fifth, any additional network settings, proxy, firewall, DNS, DHCP that you guys want to configure will also work for any of the scenarios that we have discussed today. So we've done a lot of looking back and at what we do support already. What are we supporting moving forward? So let's talk a little bit about what is new. So the first thing is our infrastructure tunnel. So as I mentioned when I was talking about the always connected scenario, it only connects after the user logs in. But what about before that? What if we have a user that needs to log in remotely? They're logging in for the very first time, they're a remote user. Or the enterprise has actually disabled cache credentials, so they have to be able to talk to the domain controller when they're trying to log into their domain account on a domain joined device. What about if the enterprise wants to use manage out? They want to be able to push updates to the device even if a user isn't logged in. They want to be able to push the Windows updates, the SCCM policy updates, etc. And you want it to be always connected. You want that infrastructure tunnel to always be there so that you're able to allow users to log in when it first comes up. They shouldn't turn on their device and know they need to connect a VPN to log in. That's just not natural, right? You want it to be always on so that you always have a connection to that device, even if they're out of the corporate network. And this is really similar to, again, direct access. This feature is filling one of the major gaps that we have identified between direct access and VPN, hopefully enabling people to kind of transition more towards VPN and allow themselves to kind of get a lot more of these modern features that we have discussed today. So, how is that tunnel created? So it is established using our IKEv2 protocol using machine certificate authentication. And it is always on as long as the device is in the wake state. The management traffic is configurable in the profile. So that's what that infrastructure tunnel is meant for. It is for management traffic. So traffic to your domain controllers, to your SCCM servers, and so on. And you can configure it using routing policies as well as traffic filters. And it can also coexist with one other active user tunnel. So what do I mean by a user tunnel? Think about it as any of the other scenarios we mentioned before. You could configure that always connected scenario and also have a second infrastructure tunnel that is always there along with it. All right, so now I'm actually going to move over and do a demo for you guys. So let's actually take a look at how we set this up. So we got 4 machines set up. We've got a domain controller, which is this one. We have a VPN server, and we've got 2 clients. One client has the infrastructure tunnel configured on it, and our second client does not. We just wanted to be able to show you the differences between the 2. So imagine this scenario. You're an IT admin. You have provisioned and a device that you need to send to one of your remote workers. You send it to your remote worker, and they work at home like 99.9% of the time. And so they get it, and they're like, all right, great, let me just sign into my domain account so I can start getting working and get productive. So let's actually be that employee right now. So I'm going to go in. I know that I am test 6, that's me, test 6, and I'm going to try and log in. So now it's actually trying to reach our domain controller right now, and it might actually spin for a little while because it's going to try a few times. It's like, you must do it. And so while that's happening, let's walk through an alternative story. So now I'm a user and I'm receiving a device that has the infrastructure tunnel provision on it. All right, so if I have it provisioned, I'm now going to go onto my device. I've opened it up. I'm ready to log in, get started, really excited for my new job. And I'm still test 6. I'm going to log in. This one's also going to take a little bit, but let's look at the difference between test 6. And you can see you've already identified me on this one. And here you can see this is the one without infrastructure tunnel. I can't sign in because the domain isn't available. Because it isn't. I'm working remotely, I'm not within the corporate network. So what that user would have to do is go to a satellite office, I don't know, fly to your headquarters, plug into your corporate network, and sign in. And then they could leave and have those cached credentials, and they're on their way. Our other test 6 has the infrastructure tunnel. They're able to get started remotely, and now their machine is actually getting started here. So that's the real benefit of having infrastructure tunnel set up, and that's one of the main scenarios that we are trying to solve here. So now, let me...
Okay, I'll talk about one more feature that we're working on, which is conditional access for VPN. Now, this has been something that has been in private preview for a while, so a lot of you have heard about it. We have documented this a little bit as well. This stems from the need after NAP was deprecated, there was no good posture detection system for the Windows ecosystem directly. We surveyed the LANs and found that conditional access meets most of the needs for at least a modern remote access system. So we worked with the conditional access team, deeply integrated with them, and are basically using that as a posture detection system as well. So when we were trying to look for this and come up with what the right way to do this is, of course, we had security in mind. We wanted to tie certificate authentication directly with multi-factor authentication to kind of give that seamless experience. We wanted to have posture detection. If anybody's worked with conditional access, they know there's a rich set of MDM policies that can be used to actually provide that conditional access. Things like health attestation, BitLocker, etc. We also had another goal in mind. It would be a Herculean task to actually go and convince all VPN servers to go and support a new authentication mechanism. So what we wanted to do was have minimal changes in existing VPN servers. What if we could make all of this detection on the client side, and to the server side it was just a certificate authentication? That was the other thought we had. Now, some servers have since gone and actually integrated with conditional access, and that's great. We completely support that. But this was one way where we can actually, even for servers that have not gone down that route, we can add support for. And then, of course, we wanted a simple configuration, which means both on the Azure Active Directory side as well as on the VPN client and VPN server side, the changes should have been minimal. So let me walk you through what that flow looks like. So what you have on screen here right now is sort of on the top right over there, you have the client. On the left, you have the AAD server. And then you have a certificate authority in there as well. And the bottom, you have your VPN server, radius server, and domain. So now, say a VPN gets triggered for whatever reason. what will happen is that the VPN platform will start an authentication with AAD via the token broker on the system. And during this particular token authentication, this can also be configured to make sure that the token has the MFA claim, which if the device doesn't have the MFA claim, it will cause the VPN platform to actually go through a AAD MFA flow for MFA to happen. So this is directly tied to the MFA. If you've already gotten an MFA claim by logging in via Windows Hello for Business or any of the other MFA methods, you were able to just authenticate cleanly to AAD. AAD then looks at the device object to see if the device is compliant to policy or not. If it is compliant to policy, the certificate authority within AAD, which is a tenant-specific CA, will issue a certificate, a short-lived client certificate, which has a validity for about 60 minutes. This certificate will then travel its way back and actually get installed into the user certificate store. And the token broker will let the VPN platform know that I'm ready for you. The VPN platform will then actually call into the VPN app, like the UWP app or the VPN inbox client, which will then do a certificate authentication using this certificate that was just installed. It then goes to the VPN server, to the Radius server, and the domain. Now, the changes you need on your on-premise system is that on the Radius server, you need to trust the root CA, the root certificate for the CA on AAD. So that's the only minimal configuration you need on the Radius server here. This is now in public preview. If you go to the conditional access blade, you will see a VPN connectivity option. You can go and set it up for MFA and or conditional access. And from the portal, you can then download the certificate or the root certificate that you then have to go and put into your Radius server. So the next thing is, where is the demo for this particular feature? It's actually quite interesting that all of the demos we showed today actually utilize this feature. So for every demo that we showed you, it actually did an AAD authentication in the background, got that certificate, and then connected through it. It did not prompt us for anything because we used Windows Hello for Business to log into that machine, which actually granted the MFA token already. So with this, we kind of complete what we had planned to talk about today, and we want to open the floor to questions. We know there are a lot of questions out there around this topic. So we'll go straight to questions, and I will have the slide for evaluation. Please go ahead and evaluate the session. Do give us feedback. We're going to be here for the next 30 minutes. Come by, talk to us, give us feedback. Thank you. So the mics are active if there are any questions.
Hi, Aman. Quick question. Which third-party UWP plugins support the conditional access VPN?
Where are you actually?
Can you okay.
Okay, sorry. So we have a bunch of applications on the Windows Store today. Off the top of my head, we have Palo Alto, Checkpoint, F5, Sonic Wall,
Pulse Secure,
AirWatch and Mobile Iron also have an option. There are a few that are going to go live in the next week as well. So I think our calculations are that a large part of the ecosystem either has it or is about to launch something in the next few weeks.
So I'm interested about F5. What changes would we need to do on the plugin side in the custom configuration to utilize the short-lived certificate instead of a regular certificate? Because this one is protected by the Passport KSP, which, to my knowledge, the F5 access plugin cannot access.
It should be able to access. We are working with them to push out an update to the F5 Access app. The conditional access feature also was not working because there was an issue with them on how they detected a TPM certificate. I just sent them an email like 2 weeks ago, and they're preparing an update on that right now.
So when can we expect?
Let's talk offline, and then we can kind of set up a thread on that.
All right, thank you.
Awesome. We're here.
Is this working?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So I have actually 3 questions. The first one is direct access used to require a fully qualified domain name or a suffix or whatever, but you couldn't go via IP because of the 6-to-4 translation that it was doing. Is the Windows 10 VPN using the same mechanism, or could I connect to HTTP 10.100.1.1?
So VPN doesn't have that same limitation as supporting IPv6 only, so we support IPv4 as well.
Okay, cool. The second question, which kind of comes two questions together, which is there any way we can push this set of configs to somebody outside? As in, so we took the situation you had where somebody had like no configs or whatever, and then he has local admin, and we could push him just like an XML file he could import. And if so, is it possible to have different set of configs? Imagine I have the people in accounting and I have the people in HR, and I want different conditional access for, or restricted VPN anyways, for the two of them.
Yes. Firstly, if you're not being managed, you can do all of this by PowerShell as well. So if you know our MDM stack a little bit, everything that we've done on an MDM actually translates into something called WMI bridge. So you can actually access everything through WMI and PowerShell. That's actually how we set ourselves up today as well.
Awesome.
From a differentiation perspective, yes, you can differentiate as well. In fact, on the VPN server side, all of the demos we did today use the same VPN servers. We just did different configurations on the client, and we were able to achieve different results.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
I don't know how to identify people, but it is you who just gestured.
So I have two questions also on the app trigger scenario that you gave. When it connects, it obviously, or whenever you launch Edge, it connected and did everything.
Yeah.
When you close the application, is it going to terminate the tunnel, or is it going to stay up and running?
So it'll stay up and running for about like 5 to 10 minutes, and then it'll actually terminate the connection.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
it
I've been-
basically determines that it's 5 minutes based on when the pulse starts, which is why it is between 5 to 10 minutes. But that's for optimization that we put in there.
So if you do have Edge running in the background, it's just going to do a heartbeat to make sure it's still needed.
Yeah, if the app gets launched again, or if any of the apps that have a reference on it get launched again, it will stay connected.
Okay. And the other one, we're looking at direct access right now to start implementing. It sounds like this is surpassing direct access. Is direct access going away? Is this the new way that everybody should be going?
So, as I was saying in the beginning, right, that we do want to have one solution. We're not making any announcements yet on direct access and what we are doing with it. But yes, it is clear that we are not investing in direct access with the new functionality that we have in Windows 10 today. It will continue to work, at least as of now, and it will continue to always work on Windows releases that have already been released. As far as the VPN is concerned, yes, that is a preferred alternative to go by because it prepares you for any other changes that come in the future. That includes things like MDM management or Azure Active Directory, and all of these things require something like VPN, the flexibility of VPN.
And I can't use group policy to configure any of this. I have to have either Intune or SCCM.
So you can use group policy, because as we just mentioned, you can also deploy this via script, but we don't support it directly, no.
There's no UI or an ADMX file that allow you to do it via UI over there, but if you want to create a PowerShell script, that's definitely feasible.
Perfect. Thank you.
We've lost most of the population that was here. I'm real curious though. A show of hands, who all is still running Windows 7? Okay, so there's a few folks.
Yep.
You have to upgrade or you can upgrade.
So all the new functionality we spoke about, like the on-demand connection or conditional access, does require Windows 10. It cannot work on Windows 7. What our recommendation has been, if you have a solution already for Windows 7, you continue with that for Windows
direct
7.
access is the current.
So direct access is completely always going to work on Windows 7. Keep that around for Windows 7. As you transition your machines to Windows 10, transition to the system on Windows 10 is our recommendation.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Let me make sure that we're not missing anyone in any other line. Okay.
So our corporate network uses 802.1x authentication. Is there any way that could extend through this VPN connection to the remote devices?
So what are you thinking, that that you are remote you VPN in, and that on top of that there is a 1x auth as well for what interface?
So whenever, like on our corporate network, whenever whenever a machine connects,
Yeah.
it does device authentication, and basically if you're domain joined, it works. And then when the user logs in, it does an additional authentication to decide which resources you have access to.
Yeah, let's take this offline. I think I need to just understand your topology a little bit. The way I'm understanding it, it should be feasible, but I just want to get a little bit more detail before I can give you that answer.
Okay, I mean, we can talk later on.
Yeah, I'll be around here. Let's talk. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Wave your hands if you are standing by a mic.
In the infrastructure mode, like domain logon, over here.
Yeah, I can see you.
What's the experience if you're not connected to a network? So I start up my computer, there's a wireless network, but obviously I haven't put in credentials or put in a web key or something to connect to the wireless network. What's that experience to the end user?
So if you don't have a network connected, it will look similar to the case where the domain was not available. Because it is not available, we of course need the physical interface. Now, if you do have cached credentials, or if you're in a situation where you can log in and then you get the Wi-Fi network, then it will automatically connect at that point.
Have you thought about, how the Windows initial logon system now prompts you for a network connection? Have you thought about enabling that in that situation where you don't see a network and then the system says, oh, here are your networks.
As soon as you get a network, we will connect. As soon as you get a network, even at that stage, it will automatically connect. So it basically detects when a network is present. When a network is present, it will actually cause an alert to come to the VPN system, and it will connect at that point as well. So even if you're not logged in and you are able to enter your credential and log in, then it will be able to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the routes that have to be provisioned through the VPN tunnel, they currently have to be configured out of band, so to speak, in the profiles.
So it depends. You know, I should take that.
I don't know where you're
So it depends. If you have a third-party or a UWP solution, they can send it down via the server as well. The Windows RR's server does not support sending them out of band, which is why we showed it in the profile itself. So both ways are feasible, depending on what your server supports.
Okay, but a dynamic set of routes
Yep.
will have to be fetched through a third-party VPN client.
No, what I mean is that
So the built-in stuff doesn't fetch these routes if a VPN server injects them.
the VPNs, the RR's VPN server doesn't support that, and neither does the Windows client. So if you're using the inbox client, you will have to provision them out of band. But when you look at the Windows Store ecosystem, they do have the ability to get them out of band as well.
Thanks.
Hi. As we move to a provisioning world, where my laptop never comes by corporate and the user data them shipped directly to him, I can policy deploy the MDM policies for the VPN. Any consideration for how to get that infrastructure tunnel now provisioned as well? I mean, the cert, the package, the payload for this stuff?
All of that will be provisioned the same way that you provision your auto VPN.
Okay, so do I expose in this scenario, say it's my PKI, it's my certs as an enterprise, I would expose that
Yes.
out over the MDM provisioning kind of,
Yep.
so I can know that the cert come down to the client in this
Yep.
scenario?
Yeah.
One thing to note though is that the infrastructure tunnel will only work for domain joined machines. The reason for that is that this scenario was tailor-made for domain joined. If you have a non-domain joined machine, then you have other management options. So it will not work over there.
I'm kind of looking at a two-phase rocket here for us.
Yeah.
Co-join, first Azure, and then eventually bring them back into our domain, like
Yeah.
a two-step rocket here for actually
Yep.
fully
Yeah, we'll work
compliancy.
perfectly fine there. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Question? Anybody else? You want to talk offline. Okay. Okay. Yeah,
right.
good.
Just move real close to the mic.
The question is around routing of the traffic when split tunneling. I understood that was done on the domain name suffix, the last parts of the domain. is there only one domain used, or is it more in the network routing policy table of
So-
direct access?
The split tunneling is actually configured via like IP addresses. So you specify what IP addresses are in your corporate network and what you want to go over the VPN tunnel.
That's
in.
routing.
Yeah.
Subnets, basically. Yeah.
So yeah.
And what if we have hijacked, I will say, public DNS inside?
So we do have an option for that as well. We have something called the name resolution policy table on Windows, and that's the first thing that is looked at for DNS resolution before it actually goes to the interfaces, and you can configure that for VPN as well. So in that way, it will first go to VPN tunnel, and if only the VPN tunnel refuses that, will it go to the interfaces.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Going once, twice, three, done.
I know. I'm hearing. I'm
Okay,
seeing.
there it is. You just got in there in time.
Hello.
Hello.
Do you have to have an infrastructure tunnel set up in order for the new Windows 10 autopilot feature to work? So the other gentleman talking about the scenario where you're, you
So-
know, it's domain joined
Yeah.
when, you know, the user gets it, but
Autopilot doesn't use the infrastructure tunnel. They are doing it without that. So this is, if you don't have that, Autopilot is definitely a good option if you're deploying that. And they also have some VPN functionality that we've helped them build in directly. The reason why it doesn't use the infrastructure tunnel directly is that because they have a flow and they have a UI, etc., they can just control when the VPN is to be connected. So they just use our APIs to do that. So it's slightly different from infrastructure tunnel.
can you guys go into more detail about what is required to set this up on the back end? You mentioned quickly, you know, spinning up some VMs in Azure, and then they're, you know, AAD joined. You know, how does this work on the back end?
Let's discuss offline a little bit,
Okay.
and we can go through this, what the deployment options are. Yeah.
Final call. It's basically empty in here.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.